we the citizens are angry. We want answers. Huge economic impact. Other than the diplomatic fallout, Pakistan's economy is already facing challenges that is not hidden from you, me, or anybody else in the world. Impact is going to be extremely high. And when we look at the economic outcome, the losses, other than the overflight, Pakistan Airline, international airlines, they obviously face increased operational costs, logistical complications. Some point in time, I say enough is enough. In fact, each one of us say enough is enough.
In the wake of the deadly Pahalgam terror attack that claimed civilian lives, India has now taken a bold diplomatic and strategic step by closing its airspace to Pakistani aircrafts. This move in airspace restrictions is already causing significant disruptions, particularly for Pakistan International Airlines, which is rerouting its flights and facing major operational challenges. To discuss the broader economic and geopolitical impact of this and counter terrorism effects and significance, we are joined by Dr. Vandana Singh. She is chairperson of Aviation Wing of FAII, and she has a very long and broad experience in aviation and cargo sector. Dr. Vanna, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today on One India to discuss this very important issue. First of all, I want to ask you, for those unfamiliar with the issue, could you briefly explain what it means when a country closes its airspace to another, and what's actually being done by the Indian government? Of course, it's a retaliatory step after the deadly Pahalgam attack, but what's happening in the aviation sector?
Thank you for having me on your show. It's an honor. And coming to the question first regarding airspace, before we go to that, I would like to first, give my heartfelt condolences to the innocent civilians, the families who have lost their lives, going for a small little picnic and having such a huge blow to their lives. So the country really is looking for answers. We the citizens are angry. We want answers. And at some point in time, I say enough is enough. In fact, each one of us say enough is enough. Uh, you know, Having said we are a peace-loving country, peace also has its limits. And
Yes.
here I would like to say even a limit has its own limit.
Mhm.
So, coming to various restrictions that are being imposed, these are obviously having significant bearings and significant impacts. And now coming to the specific aviation sector and closure of airspace
Yes.
by the Indian government. Uh, First and foremost, like you said, this is a retaliatory move from our country. And we can imagine that this has happened a week later. Pakistan had already done this a week before, but we have done it very recently as of yesterday morning. And this was the writing on the wall. It was coming because anywhere where there is escalating tension,
Mhm.
these measures are taken. We are not on unfamiliar grounds when we talk about this. We have seen the conflicts that have happened, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Russian airspace, whether it's North Korea, whether it's Israel,
Yes.
whether it is Indian airspace. This happens as an outcome of escalating tensions between two countries. And every country has the right to protect its own territory. And at this point in time, India rightfully is looking for answers. So the closure of the airspace that has happened as a retaliatory move. Now, in simple terms, when an airspace is closed, it means that the airline here in concern, Pakistan International Airline or any one of the carriers, military carriers, cargo carriers, it cannot fly over our country, it cannot fly over India. Vice versa, it implies to us that we cannot fly over their country, and this is more a security measure. And of course, this is taken due to the escalating tensions between the two countries.
Yes,
Therefore, its
definitely.
closure, yeah, therefore, it's closure of airspace. And when there is closure of airspace, what happens? Obviously, flights get rerouted. So
Mhm.
the affected countries, they need to be rerouted, and potentially they increase the flight timings, the fuel consumption, and it increases the operational costs.
Okay.
Also, yes, also there are flight cancellations, and due to the increased costs, the airlines obviously have to take the brunt of the longer flight routes. There is, as I said, high fuel consumption and obviously disruptions and potential delays that follow. And yes, closure of our airspace is a retaliatory measure. It was coming after this deadly Pahalgam attack, but a week later after what Pakistan did. So therefore, no, none of their aircrafts are allowed to fly our Indian airspace and vice versa. Whereas they are concerned, of course, they need to reroute their flights. Their costs are going to increase. Their operations are going to increase. There's going to be more fuel burn.
Mhm.
And the airspace closure is a significant diplomatic move, economic measure taken, reflecting the tensions between India and Pakistan. And following this attack, we are looking for answers.
Yes,
Over
I
to
was
you.
coming to the economic part only, Dr. Vandana. This closure, of course, has a lot of effects. I want to know what are the immediate effects to this ban for both Indian and Pakistani airlines, because you were mentioning that the Pakistani side has also banned for India the air routes. So, what are the immediate effects, especially in terms of costs and operation? How Pakistan's economy, which we know was already dire, is now going to face a blow after this?
That's an important question regarding the economic impact. Of course, the economic impact is much, much more for Pakistan than
Mhm.
us than India,
Of course.
because we are much more stronger, resilient, and a strong nation, if I may say so. As let me begin with us as far as the Indian carriers are concerned, the increased costs. The airlines are looking at approximately 77 to 80 crore weekly due to reroutings and longer flight routes, which could account to about 305 odd crore a month. As I said, due to rerouting to avoid the Pakistani airspace.
Hmm.
But let's not forget that even though we will have flight schedule changes, we definitely can fly over other parts of the Middle East, be it the Saudi airspace, be it Oman, be it Qatar from that end, or we go over West Asia, or we go over Central Asia,
Hmm.
and we can go. So for us, the routes are going to be slightly longer. For example, let's say from North India, Delhi London flight would be more or less, instead of 8.5 hours, it's going to be
Hmm.
about 11 hours plus. Or if you're flying, let's say, from to Chicago, instead of 14 hours, it may turn around to be about 18.5 to 19 hours.
Okay. Okay.
But having said that, our options are plenty as far as routings are concerned. We have alternate routings. As far as Pakistan Airlines are concerned, PIA is concerned, or their other carriers are concerned, they straight away lose overflight fees. We as India being banned. So let's say we paid overflight fees to Pakistan, which could range from 400 to 500 million annually. So if you're looking at a small, ban, then you're looking at them losing over $100 million straight away. So they are the ones who are going to face the brunt. When it comes to operational challenges, Pakistan Airline, international airlines, they obviously face increased operational costs. logistical complications due to rerouting of flights. Do not forget that now they have to fly over China, Chinese airspace, or through the Sri Lankan, below the Sri Lankan airspace. And
Mhm.
that's a long, long duration to
Wow.
reach those points. What are those points? That could be Kuala Lumpur, that could be Bangkok, that could be Singapore, that could be Melbourne, that could be any point in Australia, all that, Jakarta, all of Southeast Asia, everything gets impacted. Now, what happens with that? The trade gets affected. So, more or less, the impact is going to be extremely high. And when we look at the economic outcome, the losses, other than the overflight fees that we were paying to them, losses due to this trade impact, loss of cargo, loss of air freight, because when the flights are taking such a long path to reach that part of Southeast Asia or below that,
Mhm.
Australia, then you can imagine you're having high fuel burn due to
Yes.
which you cannot fill so many seats. You have to carry more fuel. More fuel means in the belly you can't carry cargo. When you don't
Oh.
carry cargo, that means there's no air freight. When there's no air freight, there is no trade. When there's no trade, imagine then it gets routed via, let's say, an ocean channel. It gets converted to ocean freight. Now, when it's time sensitive cargo, time sensitive shipments, whether it's perishables, whether it's ready made garments, whether it's fashion, whether it's something like the mango season that's on, perishable, that all gets affected, and that cannot go via ocean freight. So all of that is a huge economic impact, other than the diplomatic fallout, which of course has a huge impact as far as Pakistan is concerned, because their entire vision East Asia policy then goes for a six. Over to you.
You very well explained, Dr. Vandana, step by step how it's going to make a very, very huge impact on Pakistan's economy. I want to understand more about the Indian part and how significant is the estimated $600 million loss for Air India. I was reading few articles this morning and I got to know this. And due to this ban, what long-term impacts we can face here?
Okay. So first and foremost, obviously Air India takes the brunt here
Hmm.
because that is the major carrier for us. We have
Yes.
Air India, we have Indigo, we have Akasa, and we have very few other airlines that are coming up. Of course, we want it to be a healthy aviation market, and we are working towards that. But Air India, also being a part of Star Alliance, takes the major hit here. Indigo, meanwhile, cancelled its flights to Tashkent, Almaty, and certain other destinations. But when, like you said, you have read, it is an impact, significant impact. The losses could exceed maybe about 50 million, in fact, if it goes for a very, very long time. But I don't expect that to happen. So what you've read, I think that impact is also going to be absorbed,
Hmm.
supported, and
Hmm.
somewhere the Indian government is the aviation ministry, the Indian government is going to support the airlines. They're already coming with policies. They're already supporting the carriers to say you can fly over these following countries. They're getting the necessary permits, and also they are trying to mitigate these losses by helping with on the tax front and various other factors that the government is supporting. So yes, there are operational challenges that, let's say, Air India is going to face, longer flight routes, leading to increased fuel consumption again, reduced cargo capacity, but not to the extent that Pakistan is choked. So as I mentioned, a flight may take a longer time because we have many alternatives to reach Europe or to reach US. Our trade is not going to be impacted the way Pakistan is going to be affected.
Hmm.
They are having to face a significant blow. For us, I think we are a resilient country which is going to absolutely absorb this impact, and we have a very strong government. And that is going to back our carriers. So I can say that with surety, being a part of the aviation industry.
Hmm.
Also, when we look
Yeah.
at long-term consequences, airlines growth and expansion. For us, I think our orders, Boeing and Airbus, etc., that Air India has recently ordered, are of course well in time. Industry-wise, of course, there is an impact. As I said, Indigo has just cancelled two flights, Tashkent and Almaty. And economic implications, yes, the higher operational costs, which is obvious, it gets passed on to passengers. And that affects the entire supply demand. Uh, let's not forget that a lot of families, with the summer vacations coming on here in this part of the world, plan to, take their families abroad or somewhere in Europe or somewhere in the US. They will have to incur higher costs, obviously, because of the longer routes. But that is an operational fallout, and I think they have to understand that impact.
The last question which I want to ask you is, Dr. Vanna, that all these measures which is taken by the Indian government, do you see this airspace ban influencing Pakistan's actions, especially in terms of its support to terror networks? And could such economic, and we have also taken a lot of diplomatic measures against Pakistan, will these things lead to a positive shift in Kashmir?
Okay, this is a sensitive question, but I would try to answer your question here. Of course, the airspace ban, which has now come into effect, will undoubtedly put significant economic pressure on Pakistan. This could obviously potentially lead to reevaluation of its priorities and its actions. So let's not forget that they really need to reevaluate their priorities and their actions because it is having a significant impact on them. Now, Pakistan's economy is already facing challenges. That is not hidden from you, me, or anybody else in the world. And now there is additional pressure from the airspace ban that could really, further exacerbate these issues. So when we talk about terror network support, they really need to see, uh, is it the right priority? Is this the right action? I'm not the expert here to say that, but when it comes to terror network support, it is unlikely that the economic pressure alone will immediately change Pakistan's behavior regarding terror networks because there is a complex relationship, and we also read about it as
Yes.
common citizens. There's a complex relationship with these groups, and its actions are driven by a mix of strategic, ideological, and security considerations. That is also something that is not hidden from us. However, when there is sustained economic pressure, this does create an environment where Pakistan is more inclined to reconsider its support for certain groups. And that's where these dynamics play. And that's where such bans, such as the airspace ban or the other bans that are coming into effect, put pressure and has its own long-term implications, involves diplomatic engagement. And I'm sure sooner or later that this pressure will create an environment where Pakistan definitely is more inclined to reconsider its priorities and its actions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Vanna, for joining us today on One India. It is always delightful to talk to you, and we have got a lot of insights today after talking to you about this whole aviation thing which is happening between India and Pakistan. And once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. The honor is all mine. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update.